Hi and welcome to Justine's Paper Crafting Tutorials with Justine the Twilight Stamper. We're moving on to day 2 today of the watercolor technique video series that I put together. Today we're going to be using Inktense pencils to create a watercolor look, so we're faking it a little bit today. Alright, so we're going to be using this stamp set from Clearly, Besotted, and it's one of my favorites from her line, and we're going to be using the one flower off of that stamp set. Now my original idea was to stamp this on white watercolor cardstock, but then I changed my mind and I decided to go to craft cardstock. So I'm going to mount the flower onto my Fiskars press. And we're going to ink this up using Versamark. Be sure to get even coverage on here. And we're going to stamp this onto a piece of cardstock. I created a 4x8 piece of craft and I scored it in the middle. And to create my card base, this is going to be a 1-layer card. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this down and I'm going to apply some even pressure here to make sure that all of the Versamark ink gets on there. I stamped it a little bit at an angle. And I'm going to take some embossing pad. I'm just going to take that scrap piece of craft, which has this weird line in the middle, and I was kind of disappointed about it, but I think I kind of like it. It gives it a little bit of character. I'm just going to tap that ink, or that powder off, and get that embossed. Alright, so now that the embossing powder is all melted using the craft heater, I'm going to grab my pencils. I'm using Inktense pencils, and I was really lucky to get a set of these at a fantastic price because they come from the UK, and since I'm living in Europe at the moment, then it's a little bit cheaper than getting them in the States or in Canada, so I was excited about that. So I'm going to grab a couple of purple pencils that I have here and a couple of green pencils. Now these are very, very Inktense, as the name says, so they're very pigmented. You don't need to push very hard. I realized after coloring the first petal that I was coloring too hard, and I was just applying a normal pressure that I would apply with a regular pencil crayon. So you have to make sure that you apply very light pressure to it, and we're just going to color in all of the petals and add some darker shading along the areas that would be sort of shaded or darker when in real life. Okay, so I'm just going to, as I said, shade along all the petals using the lightest color. And then I'm just going to grab the next color and do the leaves. So I'm going to take the lightest color once again, do the stem, the leaves, and kind of in between on those flower pieces there. I'm going to grab some of the darker shading here of the green and just go along the lines and a little bit from the bottom, so that bottom part of the leaf would be shadowed because it's under the flowers. That was kind of my reasoning behind that. I'm not a shading expert, I just kind of go and do it. I mean, I don't think many things can look bad when you're doing the shading, especially when you do the watercolor technique afterwards. It should work out for you. I'm going to take the next purple, as you can see, and just go in the crevices there and just fill in a little bit. It looks great even as it is, even without adding the water. So you just need to take some clean water and your brush, and I don't want to put too much water, so I just wiped it off of my hand there, and just go along and blend the colors. Yeah, so this card is super easy. I mean, it takes 5 minutes or so to make. It's not a true watercolor because watercolors are usually sort of light and they usually bleed and everything like that. So this is more of a controlled watercolor, and by using the Inktense pencils, you're going to get a really intense color. So if you're looking for an intense watercolor technique, these pencils would be perfect for this. So I did go outside the lines, and I tried to go outside a little bit on the stem and on the leaves to make it a true watercolor sort of look, but the embossing powder does prevent you from doing much. Alright, so I'm going to put the sentiment on here and white emboss it just like I did my previous image, so I'm not going to show that really on the video, and then the card is finished. Just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for watching this video. Here is the final result on the card, and please take a moment to subscribe and thumbs up. Thanks so much.